Hey, this is John Hope Bryant, and this is Money and Wealth on the Black Effect Network, on the iHeart Radio Podcast Network in series for 2025. So we have started off 2025 with a bang. If you haven't listened to the first episode, you need to go back and listen about how to get you right, get yourself set up to win in 2025. Now, I'm going to pivot to why you need to go back to work. Yes, I've set you up to hate me. It's all right. I'm going to give you good reason why this is your season and give you an understanding of how this game works and what's going on and why and who and why it relates to you. So I want you to hyper focus during this podcast today. When you're reading or listening or watching this podcast, when you're reading transcripts of it or listening to it, or you're jogging or you're cooking or you're on commute, whatever it is you're doing, I want you to take mental notes. And if you have to, come back and take written notes and share this with those that you love, particularly the up and coming Aspiration Generation. That's right, the Aspiration Generation. You want to get ahead. More than anything, this group that I've noticed of young and resetting African Americans and people of color, they want to strive, they want to succeed, they're aspirational. Now, people define success in different ways. But one thing is absolutely clear. They want the golden ring. They want the success song to sing. They want to go from the streets to the suites. They want to be successful. And they want freedom. And as a friend, Chris Gorman, the CEO of KeyBank, once told me, John, it's entirely possible that the only true freedom is financial freedom, financial and economic freedom, because every other freedom can be taken away from you. So how do you achieve freedom today? How do you go from the streets to the suites and stay there? I mean, the business suites. How do we grow from the foundation of civil rights? Thank you, our forefathers and all who came before us, and Dr. King, Ambassador Andrew Young, Dr. Dorothy Height, all the heroes and sheroes that came before us. Thank you for all they have done, so we can go from civil rights in the streets to cutting business deals and succeeding in the business suites. So the pandemic brought on remote work. The global pandemic introduced for the first time remote work. I had never done a video call ever before, and I'm a techie, before February 2020. I remember when it was done. I was on a video call with Coca-Cola executives, and they had a technology that they called Blue Jeans, and it was, you would call it, its companion technology, Zoom. And I thought they said blue jeans. I said, what's Coca-Cola doing making blue jeans? I had no idea, but quickly I realized that this was, a new way to communicate in a distanced world. And as we all know, Zooms and blue jean sessions and whatever other technology you use just absolutely took off and commanded the stage. And we've been Zooming and video calling and all that while working from home ever since. But keep in mind, that happened as a result of a global pandemic not seen since the Spanish flu 125 plus years ago. And for very good reasons, people had to distance themselves. And one of the benefits was you got to spend more time with your family and spend time at home and so on and so forth. And now that the pandemic has receded, was being managed through vaccines and through, normalization of, this is like the flu. I mean, by the way, when the flu first came out, it killed people left and right. but there were vaccines and other things that were done to manage the common cold and the flu and so on and so forth, so it didn't kill you. The same thing with COVID. It's not a health session. I'm just giving you the backstory of why I'm about to tell you, or the framework with which I'm going to give you some really hard news for some people as they are cursing me out listening to this podcast. What the heck is John? I listen to John Hope Bryant. He normally gives me good advice, but this is bone stupid, somebody is saying. And I'm about to give you 5 great reasons why you need to return to work. So here we go. Am I saying, first of all, that there's an end to remote work? Am I saying that working from home is dead? No, I am not. In fact, I'm saying it's here to stay. That one of the benefits of two of the benefits of the global pandemic was one, a further embrace of technology by everybody, young and old, and rich and poor, conservative and liberal, no matter where you were, who you are, you understood the power of technology because it was a thing that allowed you to continue to function. Number 2, more quality time with your family, more peace of mind, better wellness, hopefully, less commuting time. And I think that those 2 things are in balance, here to stay. Now, most things out of balance are not good for you, and most things in balance are. Alcohol in balance will, lower your blood pressure. You drink a glass of wine every now and then, it's good for you. You drink a glass of wine every hour or all day, every day, and you'll be a drunk. That's not good for you. Drugs that are unbalanced are prescribed, and it goes on. Sleep on balance, is key to your wellness, and too much sleep, literally will make you lethargic, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. So I think that remote work's going to transition to 1 or 2 days a week. That's not what this podcast is about, but just to let you know, I'm not a Debbie Downer here. I'm not trying to mess with your joy or be a joy killer. Yes, I think remote work is on balance here to stay. But I think that I know that employers are going to want their employees back in the office for the most part. And that's not what this podcast is about either. This is about you and why you should want to be in the office. But as an employer myself, I have much more value with the employees that I see muget more value from, that I engage with. And now we are a technology-centric company, and my people are all over the country, and so I get used to not seeing my people. But it is always more valuable. It is the things I remember. By the way, during 2 years of COVID, we zoomed our rear ends off. We all did that, right? Do you remember any of those sessions? It's all a blur, right? You zoom, right? All day and all night. Do you remember anything? Come on, be honest. It's just a blur. But I remember when I'm in front of somebody. I remember when they're in front of me. I remember the laughter. I remember the hug. I remember the engagement. I remember the energy. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Energy matters. I remember the impressions that people make on me in person. I don't remember the impressions that they make on me on Zoom or on Blue Jeans or whatever the technology is. Technology is more efficient. It's not more effective. I'll get to that in a moment. So here are the 5 reasons why Black folks should want to go back to the office. Number 1, the issue today is increasingly not love or hate. It's radical indifference. It's not love or hate. It's not active racism. It's indifference. It's radical indifference. People just don't care enough about you to hate you. In fact, they're trying to get away from you in many cases. Think about this. Gated communities, private gated communities, private roads, private schools, private security, private transportation. It goes on and on and on. They don't hate you. They're not thinking about you. They're trying to. They're trying to have more of what they enjoy and less of what they don't understand. It's not haterade, yes, necessarily. It might be something worse, but in many cases, they just want what they want, and they want what they call quality of life, and you may or may not be part of that equation. So, in an environment, I remember this brother. I was in Harlem. This is years and years and years and years ago. President Reagan was president, and I've known 9 presidents. I have been recognized by 5, and I've been honored by 3, and I've served 3 from both parties as an advisor, presidential advisor, commissioned advisor. And when President Reagan was president, I was in Harlem, and I remember this brother was saying, "Oh, President Reagan's a racist." I said, "No, I think he's insensitive, and I think he's out of touch on certain issues. We're born on the same day. I know the man. February 6th, I know the man. We're not best friends or anything, but I know the man. I'm telling you, the vibe I picked up is he's not a racist." "Oh, yeah, President Reagan is a racist." "I'm telling you, he's a racist." "No, he's not a racist. I'm telling you, he hates me." "President Reagan doesn't hate you," I told him. "He's not thinking about you. You're not even on his radar screen." President Reagan, I told him, wasn't raised around black people, didn't know many black people, was not influenced by black culture, did not have black people in his family. His wife's not black. His culture, his societal environment's not black. His paycheck's not dependent on anything tied to black. His wealth's not tied to anything tied to black. His movies didn't feature a bunch of black people. Like, he doesn't hate you. He's not thinking about you. And the only time that he even thought about black people was when he got criticized by a group of black legislators for being, well, they called him racist. So even if he had an experience, it was a negative one. So he just wanted nothing to do with it. And as a result of not having a relationship with him, I think we were worse served by his legislative agenda. The one thing he did do right was to pass Dr. King's holiday, and I thank him for that. But anyway, my point is that gentleman had it wrong, that he made something emotional and personal that was worse. It was non-feeling at all. What does this have to do with you? No one cares about your drama and your agenda, and no one cares about your feelings. Capitalism is a gladiator sport. You're going to have to show up in your own life. You're going to have to embrace the fact that you've got to create a value proposition. So the first issue is that you need to understand that you're not as, I hate to say it, valuable to society as you might have thought. And if you don't think that's true, look at what's happening right now to things like DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which I just think were not well designed, and so they're easy to attack. Once again, they had emotions in them and relied on morals and all that stuff. I deal with that on another podcast. I deal with that a lot in my writings. If you're interested in what my opinion is on DE&I, you can go to my podcast, my Time Magazine and Fortune Magazine articles and others where I break that down and talk about what I think is the future, which is inclusive economics, but that's another topic for another day. I like math because it doesn't have an opinion. So that sort of relates to what I'm saying here, that there's an environment coming here, a pushback that's almost the opposite of what happened after George Floyd's murder, where people were more sensitive and more engaged and more focused. Now people are either indifferent or maybe even antithetical to your issues and your interests and your concerns. They may be even bothered by you asking for special considerations, which may or may not be legitimate, those special considerations. In many cases, those considerations are legitimate for reasons we all know tied to the history of black people in America. But none of that matters, because nobody cares about your drama. And people may not care about you, which is why you need to go back to read my book, Up From Nothing, where I talk about self-esteem as differentiated from confidence. Now, in order to do what I'm talking about today, you're going to need confidence, and you can do that because you're competent. But you're also going to need self-esteem, which is to esteem yourself. If I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not going to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. And the big one is, if I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm going to make your life a living hell. Whatever goes around comes around. And whenever you make an emotional decision, it's going to be the wrong one. And when you have low self-esteem, you tend to engage in the three things that Ambassador Young says will kill you, Andrew Young. The men and women fail for three reasons: arrogance, pride, and greed. We don't tend to be greedy, not traditional sense. We don't tend to be arrogant per se. That's really low self-esteem. But we tend to have a lot of pride. And pride in this example is tied to emotions. And I want you to put that aside. I want you to be practical and listen to what I say in these next 4 rules. The first one is the setup. It's the environment that you're living in. As Quincy Jones said to me, not 1 ounce of my self-esteem depends on your acceptance of me. And what I would say to you is not what people call you, is what you answer to that's important. And never, ever, ever answer out of your name. To argue with a fool proves there are 2. Step over mess, not in it. You know who you are. You are somebody. You are God's child. You are special. You don't need to scream and holler and make a spectacle of yourself to prove it. So don't make a spectacle about folks telling you that they want you to return to work. When you're being run out of town, get in front of the crowd and make like a parade. Now, if you don't need all of the stuff that I'm saying between 1 and 5 here, just fast forward. You tell your friends on repeat. You literally pick the moment, the marker on the podcast, and tell them just listen to minute A, minute B, minute C, to get to the 5 if you are short on time. But context here really is important. Number 2, black folks are legend as, quote, the last hired and the first fired. When budgets are tough and things get tight, or when budgets are tight and things get tough. We are a legend in corporate America for being the last hired and the first fired. When things go south, it's super easy to get rid of the person or the department you cannot see and have no emotional connection with. It's harder to show the value proposition when you're not in the office. It's just like it's easier for you to work from home. You're like, shit, why should I come to the office? I hit my marks, I did my things. See, you're talking about compliance now. I'm talking about achieving. I'm talking about being a standout. And if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Please listen to me now, right? I told you capitalism is a gladiator sport. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So it's just harder to show up and show out when you're not showing up. Some people say that showing up is half of success, because we're not human doings, we're human beings. So you say, no, I'm just going to do my work. I'm just going to chill at home. I don't owe these people anything more than that. Okay, that's your right. You also have the right to be fired, okay, to let go. Because people just, again, it goes back to number 1. Nobody's even concerned about you personally. You're going to be concerned about you. You're going to become your own advocate. Back to number 2. You cannot lean on other assets. What do I mean by that? In the corporate environment, right? How did a lot of people get hired? Did they fill out an application? No, they knew somebody. It was a relationship capital. They went to the college with them. They went to the university with them. They were part of a private club with them. They know their uncle had recommended them, or their daddy runs a company, or whatever. But you don't have that. You don't have that inheritance asset of inheriting a relationship. You don't have the relationship capital of being the caddy with your daddy, with the boss of the company, and that's how you got hired. So you don't get fired. So you have to show up and show value, because your value proposition, your predetermined non-financial assets, how people feel about you, whether they respect, admire, regard, all the soft skills. Those things are thin. Hopefully you went to university, you went to college, you have your degree. You don't go to the same games, you don't go to the same sports, you don't hang out with the same people, you didn't go to college with them. They don't know you. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying that these folks in corporate America, the boardrooms, were racist, and he just saw a bunch of white 65-year-old people in boardrooms and just assumed they're racist. I said, no, they probably discriminated, but they're not necessarily racist. He said, well, what do you mean? Well, I discriminate against stupid and dumb people. I'm working on it. I'm trying not to, but I do. So what they're doing in this environment is they went to school with these people. They chase girls together. If they're guys, we're talking about guys here, or they're ladies. The ladies, oogled at guys together. But whoever they are, they have a relationship, they have history. And there was 3 applications in front of them. There was an overqualified white female, there was a well-experienced black male, and then there was his buddy that he went to college with. And the position was a trusted position of deputy treasurer or something for the company. Who gets hired? Well, unless the friend is an idiot, and if at least he got decent grades in math, he's going to get hired because that's his boy. That's who he ran with in school. That's who he's comfortable with. That's who he knows. And those intangibles matter. That's thick relationship capital. And so, yes, they discriminated. So they discriminated against, if you will, quotation marks, the overqualified white female and the overexperienced black male. That's the way the world works. When you have a party at your house, if you're black and you have a barbecue cookout, how many people are white? Probably all black. Didn't you discriminate? You didn't do it actively. It was racism. It's just your comfort zone. So people are living in their comfort zone. And so why are boardrooms filled with 65-year-old white men? Because that's who they went to school with. I mean, why do you go to Harvard? Because the class of Harvard 2024 is going to hook each other up for the next 30, 40 years. It's relationship capital. You don't have that. That's point 2.3 of my 5 points. Let me repeat it. You cannot lean on other assets because your uncle is not running that company and you didn't go to school with a hiring manager. Number 3, you need to be seen to be picked. Okay, so number 1 was it's not love or hate. It's not active racism. It's radical indifference. People don't care enough about you to hate you. Care enough about you to hate you. Number 2, black folks are legend for being the last hired and the first fired. When budgets get thin and things get tough, you may get lost in the shuffle. Number 3, you need to be seen in order to be picked. I want you to, don't laugh now, I'm serious. I want you to walk past, show up to the office and walk past the boss's office. By the way, you want the white folks to not show up to the office. I'm picking on white people, but it doesn't matter whoever already has all of the chips, who's already successful. It doesn't matter who they are, right? So, you want the other people who are seasoned and who are credible and who can afford to work from home because they've already got the relationship capital, they've already got the history, right? They've already achieved, they're just almost coasting. You want those people to stay at home. You want to encourage those people to stay at home, really, and you want to show up to the office. And you want to walk past the boss's office 20 or 30 times a day. That's right, I said it. Until the boss says, hey, Joe, Jack, Joanne, come here. Well, who are you? Now you got it. You want to talk to that boss when there's nobody around. Everybody else wants to stay at home. You're at the office. You walk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally got the boss's attention. Now you have a chance to tell your story and do not wear that person out. Do not talk for 30 or 40 freaking minutes. Don't talk for 3 hours. Talk for 5 or 10 minutes and bounce and be interesting and interested. Number 4, this is really important. I just set you up. Now I want you to pay it off. I want you to volunteer for pain duty. This is really important. Rainbows only follow storms. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. It's a scientific fact. I want you to volunteer for pain duty. Raise your hand to get the worst, most unattractive assignments around that office, and then kill it in completing that assignment through execution. I want you to get the worst assignments possible. Some things that nobody else wants. If there's a team of people in a meeting and nobody wants the assignment, you volunteer to get that one. I was working at a mortgage company, one of my few jobs, I cover that in one of my books, Up From Nothing, or The Memo, if you're interested in going back to that. You should, by the way, get my new book, Financial Literacy for All. It's a bestseller. Right now it's at Walmart, by the way, on 2,000 store shelves. You can go on to my link tree to find out which stores. Anyway, I'm in this mortgage office, and nobody wanted to go work in the hood. So I volunteered to go work in the hood. Well, I had the complete territory. And then the story goes on and goes on and goes on. Nobody wanted to do this, nobody wanted to do that. I end up, by the way, doing a management buyout, a joint venture and a management buyout of my division of that company. I built from zero to $23 million a year in business and buying my employer. Again, another story for another time. I was 21 years old, something like that. This predates Operation Hope. But I never got if I was trying to compete with everybody trying to do business on the west side of LA, by the way, God bless those who are dealing with the fires right now in Los Angeles. Operation Hope will be there and will be responding. But if I was trying to compete with everybody dealing with Beverly Hills clients or West LA clients or Santa Monica clients or Valley clients, I never got any business. I didn't know anybody there. But I went to the one place nobody wanted to go and people were afraid of, the hood, the hood, DA-HOOD, the hood, and cleaned up on business when I worked at that company to the point where I did so much business I ended up buying my division. So I want you to volunteer for pain duty, the thing that nobody wants to do but you. And I want you to look for the opportunities where people see problems. So during the pandemic, my friend Ed Bastian, the CEO of Delta, was trying to hire for a very key position at Delta. And of course, they're about air flights, so it's all about showing up. And he put this request out for employment, and people just they were given a choice. You can zoom in or fly in. Keep in mind, he's an airline. One person flew in. Guess who got that job? And I'm talking about it was a really, really good job. He wasn't that. It wasn't that person was. It was 10 times more qualified than everybody else. He was as qualified. The other people were as qualified as him, and vice versa. But he showed up. And he showed out in front of Ed Bastian and got that job. Number 5, nurture new invaluable relationship capital, because we don't have financial or legacy capital or inheritance capital to lean on. Technology is more efficient, but it's not more effective. Here's relationship capital for you in technology at work. So I'm, during the pandemic, having conference calls like you and everybody else with everybody. And I can't name the name of the company or the person. You'd figure it, because it's, well, you explain it, you understand in a moment why I can't. But I'm talking to this big player on Wall Street, like household name. And we've done 2 or 3 Zoom calls in a year. John, what's going on with you? Give me the update. And I tell him, and we have a 45-minute call proper, and he'd hang up, and we'd hang up, and it was great. When I was in New York on a trip, and I called this guy, I said, hey, can I stop by the office? They said, oh, come on by. So I went by the office. No one's there because everybody's trying to stay at home. And he said, let me come to my office. Let me show you my office. Come down to the cafeteria. Let me show you our new cafeteria we built, this new skyscraper that he just invested in for all of his people. And by the way, there was a lot of people in the cafeteria. This is during the end of the pandemic. So people were showing up for the reasons I'm telling you now, young associates showing up and smart, seasoned executives. Then he was like, well, come on, you want to join me for lunch? Sure. So we go to a private dining room and I sit down and he says, so John, tell me what's going on with you. Now, mind you, I'm saying to myself, is this dude having a memory loss? Like, we just covered this ground on 2 conference calls. Fine. I repeat the same thing I said on those calls. He's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Hey, Joe, come here. Joanne, my assistant, his sister, can you get Joe? Come here. Joe ran the real estate division for this company. Sit down here. Pull up have lunch with my friend John. Tell me again what you're doing at the end of the conversation. Shouldn't we be involved with something like this? Can we invest in John's company or buy it or something? Do you know this company made a tender offer for $100+ million to buy my company shortly thereafter, and they didn't win that bid. Another company won the bid, but they helped me prove that my company was as valuable as I thought it was. But that would have only happened. That did only happen because I actually showed up. So I'm living the philosophy that I'm telling you that you should adopt yourself. I want you to, so that was point number two, my living legacy story. Number three, be interested, look around that office. When you're in that office with that CEO or that manager or whoever it is, get into their hearts, not just in their heads, and do not try to get in their pockets. Do not be transactional. It's not about what you get, it's what you have to give. That's a truth to life. Care and be there. Be present in that conversation. Lastly, I want you to offer, if the opportunity ever comes up, I want you to go to breakfast or lunch or coffee. If you're a lady, you may not want to go to dinner because there may be something else going on. They may be taking your friendliness for something else, so you might want to tap the brakes on a dinner. But if you have a chance to go to breakfast or lunch or coffee with a leader in that company, again, most people will not be around. You want their undivided attention, and now you're really beginning to build real warmth in that relationship. Jamie Dimon, who's a friend of mine, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, wrote a piece on called "This Is Working," and it was advice for business leaders. And he said leaders have to get out. They have to get out all the time. They have to be curious and ask a million questions and be engaged. And just getting out of your office and getting on a plane or going to meetings, it sets off endorphins in your brain and energy in your soul, no different than going to the gym versus looking at the gym equipment. Exercising yourself and exercising your brain has real value and creates and develops your soft skills of engaging with people. These are five, I just gave you five very good reasons why, if you're part of the Aspiration Generation, you should want to take yourself to the office. And here's the 5 rules of your economic liberation from my book, The Memo. So I've got 6 books, Banking Our Future, Love Leadership, so I do this by memory, How the Poor Can Save Capitalism, The Memo, Up From Nothing, and my last book, Financial Literacy for All, which is, most of those are bestsellers. You should get the last one for sure. But in my book, The Memo, I wrote the 5 rules of your economic liberation. We live in a free enterprise society. Embrace it. Don't argue with it. Even if you want to distribute money like a socialist, you have to first collect it like a capitalist. But what are we arguing about? Just show up and show out. Number 2, your mindset makes or loses you money. You choose. Your mindset makes or loses you money. You choose. Number 3, your relationships are investments. Build relationship capital with yourself first and then expand from there. Number 4, don't just get a job, be entrepreneurial, because number 4 relates to number 3. You're the product, not what you're tapping on your computer, not what you're doing as a job title. They can get somebody to replace you on that. AI can replace you on that. Hello, please hear me. Artificial intelligence is going to replace 40% of all jobs that are out there. And if you're just sitting at home and you're not visible and you're doing something that a computer can do, automation can do without you, then you're gone. So I want you to don't just get a job, be entrepreneurial in your mindset, create value. Number 5, spiritual capital is the start of true wealth. Own your own power, which is really what I was just trying to tell you. Now, I'm going to give you a little bonus here in this podcast, which is why you should want to stay at home. Now, I just told you to get out the house, right? But this is why you should want to stay at home. So get out the house, go to work, all that stuff. But as soon as you can, go back home. Don't go to the club. Go back home. Don't go to the club unless you own the club. Now, I'm not telling you not to go party. Of course, enjoy yourself. Whatever it is you enjoy, go do it. All things in balance. But you shouldn't want to be at the club 4 or 5 nights a week. You're just paying off somebody's mortgage and all their business loans at that club, and they're selling you overpriced liquor, and they're making you brain numb so you can't get up and go to work, or you don't want to go to work, but you're focusing on the wrong things. I want you to understand why you actually need to have quiet time. I have quiet time. I go on retreats twice a year, and I get away. I step off the field as much as I can, the field of capitalism, free enterprise, engagement, leadership. I go and spend quiet time reflecting, thinking, listening. The book, Malcolm, I love so many books, so I mixed them up. This book is called The Power of Now. I'm thinking of that by Eckhart Tolle. And he says, yesterday's a memory, doesn't exist. Tomorrow's the present. It hasn't happened. But most of you have one foot in yesterday, one foot in tomorrow, and that's why they call the present a gift. I want you to give yourself the gift of being present in your own life. When you do that, you create more time. You also create more headspace. You also get more creativity. You move from a surviving mindset to a thriving mindset, which triggers a winning mindset. So here's a brother who's figured out in his own way, different from me, but I still agree, the value of staying at home. Here you go. This is a brother. This went viral on Instagram.
I'm enjoying every red cent up. The hell with the streets. As much as I pay for this house, I'm enjoying every red cent up. You 40, 50, 60, still outside. What you doing outside? Go home and get in the bed like me. It's midday. A nap is required at that age. Talking about I'm outside. Yeah. As much as you pay for your house or pay rent, you better enjoy your inside. Get your old to the house and take a nap. You remember how we was in daycare, they made us all lay down to take a nap? All my 40, 50, 60 years old, 60 years old people. We all need to lay down in unison. Take a damn nap. God, talk about you outside. Go off to the house, take a nap. The hell with the
Oh my God, I love that. Once you get about 30, you start to realize that they're not in these streets. I mean, it's just rinse and repeat. It's just the same old thing. And if you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. So I'm not trying to kill the club, I'm kill your vibe or kill hanging out. Again, I enjoy myself just like anybody else. But I'm just saying that that's not where you're going to find billionaires, millionaires, CEOs, leaders. They're out. I mean, they're sitting behind a computer or reading a book. Or, by the way, you should read a book. They're reflecting. They're thinking. They need a clear head. I walk through life consciously oblivious of most things around me because it just doesn't matter. Drop the mic. This is John Hope Bryant. This is Money and Wealth. You can't get your pocket straight until you get your mind straight. You make money during the day, you build wealth in your sleep. John Hope Bryant, Money and Wealth. Tell all your friends to subscribe to this podcast. I come at you every Thursday. This is my ministry of finance. I do it solo, like I did this podcast episode, but I often bring on very amazing guests, people you'll never hear or find or get advice from anywhere on the planet. This is not like any other podcast episode or series. The people I get can't be gotten unless they just, they like you. What's that called? Relationship capital. John Hope Bryant, I'm out. Go change your life. It starts right now.